In this session we're going to have a look at managing the database of information held in the cloud to do with the user. So the way you do that is click on the window menu and choose database. Now I've got it minimized down here so it's going to come up quickly. It'll normally come up a bit more slowly. And then you have information all about the user. Now the user is you, or if you've got a group of people on the system, all of those who you might have access to. You need to be a group manager to be able to change other people's data. If you're not a group manager, then you only have access to your own set of information here. Under this tab, all of this information is for you. Even if you go show all, it's only going to show your record. So let's try that now. We'll just go show all, and we'll see one record appear. It's just got to get all that information from the cloud and set up all the fields, and there we go. So that's our information here. For me as a user, you can see what my user ID is. That's unique to me. My login name, I can't change that. That is set for me. I can change my full name, I can change my password, all of my address details, and then in here and things like that, you can go in and change them if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you as to whether you want to put that information in. If you want to add a photo, you can click on the on here. If you click on the picture here, it'll let you load in the photo from a file. If you click on the picture of this little guy with a camera, it'll come up with on a Macintosh. It won't work on Windows or Linux, but on a Mac it'll come up and let you take a photograph using the iSight built-in camera. So you can use either way to load a picture of yourself onto the system should you want. Okay, across here we have a number of the different things, different quotas for the use of the Dockhaven database. So every time you go and search for projects on the system, this is a limit to how many at most it's going to come back with. So if after a while you do have potentially thousands of different projects on Dockhaven, this can limit the screen back to 100. Now you can change that on the fly in the quotas window to a larger number, but this amount is probably a reasonable amount for you to work with. The total projects, if anything here is 0, that means it's unlimited. So maximum total projects means how many projects in all, whatever their size, however many versions, given the number of versions, how many are able to be stored on Dockhaven. Once it reaches that limit of projects multiplied by the number of their versions, then it won't let you put any more away. But I'd leave that as 0, so it's unlimited. Same with the maximum size per project, so you can set a limit to the any project itself being put away can have a limit. Now that's set. Also the size of all projects overall. So that's the number of projects times the size of those projects gets us the space here. So in this case it's 1,000 megabytes, otherwise known as 1 gigabyte. That's the amount of space that all projects that after they've been compressed can take up. So given that things typically compress to about half their size or better, that's around 2 to 5 gigabytes worth of projects that you can have stored on the system. You can change the number of versions that are kept of those projects. Whatever you do, don't make it 0, otherwise it's going to, every time you put a project away, it's going to wipe all the versions that you in total that you've got. But you may want to reduce it to say 5, or you may want to increase it to a larger number if you think you might ever want to go back. But make sure it's, if you keep large projects, it's probably best to keep it small. If you keep lots of small projects, you can keep it large, but just make sure you purge from time to time. Default rate is the cache amount if you put billing onto your projects, how much that is. The amount of cache there, that's for Cachehaven. Now the reason why we're able to change this value is because we're actually a group manager. So group managers can go in there and change the value for other users on the system. Under access we have whether when you quit out of Dockhaven, will it actually come up and warn you and say that you've got some projects that need to be put away? If you find that you don't like to be nagged with that, then turn that off. The advantage of that is that if you are quitting out and you say yes, I do want to save those then it'll put away all of your projects, and when it's finished it'll still automatically quit you out. There's the option here to reveal, so that when you take projects out, will it by default offer to show those or reveal those files in the Finder. Login disabled is if you have a user within your group, say, who leaves the organization. You don't want to delete their account, you don't want to remove all of their projects, you just want to stop them from being able to log in from anywhere. So that's what the login disable's for. Hidden, what hidden does is that turns off the display. When you log in, there's a pop-up window showing you potential usernames to make it easier to log on to the system and get the spelling right. That hidden will ensure that your name does not appear on that list. By default, when different operations are finished, like take out and put away, it speaks to you and tells you that operation has finished. If you find that annoying, just turn speech off here. It's up to you. Further down we have an expiry date. You can't go and change that. That shows up on the system to let the system put an absolute date. So if you have a contractor who's working for you, you could potentially come in here and set the time of which they can no longer connect in by. So you don't need to bother disabling at the end, because the date will have expired. Further down here we have what level of privileges they have. It's all grayed out, so you can't change your privileges. Only the main administrator can do that. But basically it tells you what different things you can and can't do, where your files are being stored. Every user is has their files stored on one FTP server, and it's all stored separately. All of their projects are stored in that one area. You can say who your default user and group are in case you regularly create projects for other people and for others to access. You can set those there. The default client is mainly used so that we know who on earth we are doing the work for. You would normally want to have that set to an internal client ID. The marked and quick contacts are related to CRM Haven to see which ones you've worked on before. Recent shows you which projects you have looked at recently. All this information further down here to do with Screen Haven has to do with you sharing your screen for others to access. Now the other tabs along here are mainly for things like the Twit Haven. Do you want it so that when you receive messages, it'll automatically send it to your email details there, so that you can receive the email. You can also have it sent to your SMS, so the messages come through an alternative way there. You can have it so that if you have someone who takes out projects and never puts them away and potentially loses their computer, the synchronize is set up so that they can automatically have their whole Dockhaven folder compressed and synchronized to this project every so often. So you may want to set that to every 60 minutes, 2 hours or whatever. And finally there's notes. So that's all the details on how to change information for the user on the database. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.